Capcom Cup 2023 just ended, and we got to witness a ton of hype matches and beautiful gameplay. The LCQ just to qualify for the tournament proper was insane in and of itself. The bracket was stacked and it was a 2-day event just to crown a winner. The winner of the LCQ, Zhen, had to then go on to fight in the group stage of the tournament to secure a place in top 16. He did so playing undefeated in the LCQ and the group stage, making his qualifying run for Capcom Cup proper the most difficult ever. But with that said, it got me thinking, was this the best LCQ bracket run we've seen in the FGC so far?
Just one thing I want to say. Fighting game is something so great.
Tell him about himself. Tell him about himself. Tell him about himself.
Let him know.
Call him. Tell him about himself. Talk to him. Tell him about himself.
Ooh.
Tell him about himself.
Like
That's
this,
what I like to see.
That was pure unadulterated bus ass right there.
That was raw. That was no air freshener. That was all bus ass.
There it is, your qualifying play out of the LCQ. Burning core touchdown, there are the tears, guys. Come on, Johnson. There are the tears. He did it, my man.
Yo, this is
struggling all year. The leader in the points traveled all around the globe, could not qualify, couldn't deal with all the best players, proves it. This means so much to him as well.
This is beautiful. This is what fighting games is all about here, ladies and gentlemen.
Leading up to the LCQ for Capcom Cup 9, it was hard to pick a favorite. Between legends like Problem X and Kichipamu and Tokido attending, the bracket could shake out pretty much any way, but there was one player we were warned about, BLG Zen. Just a few days before the Cup, a player who had just had his breakout in SFL, DCQ, talked about a training partner who was heading to LA with him to attend the LCQ. He talked about just how strong he thought Zhen was. It seemed like home region bias, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But then there was a match, Zhen versus Problem X. This was an important match to watch for two reasons. One being that Problem is the premier Bison player of the world, so for him to face a Bison, we all thought he'd take the match pretty easily. But also, because Zhen's CFN is fake Problem X, as he's built his gameplay around the template Problem X provided. Zhen proceeded to take the match with confidence, and then won the whole LCQ from winner's side. This was obviously unprecedented, especially considering it was his first tournament abroad, and he's only been playing fighting games for about 4 years. To make this run even crazier, he went on to go undefeated in the group stage, taking out players like Momochi, Big Bird, and Mono. Since this just went down, I won't go too far into detail, but he made it all the way to winners finals to face off against Menard. Mena was playing phenomenally and sent him to losers, where he'd face and defeat Idom. Then the two met again in grand finals, but Mena proved to be the better player and took the cup home once again. Zhen's run was overall unprecedented in that he only lost to one player that whole week. In a pool of the best players from each region around the world, he came out just shy of the top. But now, we'll never forget his name and fear him when Street Fighter 6 comes around. Just keeping it real, it's hard to beat this LCQ run, but I want to look back at some others in the past that might come close. Sticking to Street Fighter, there haven't been many LCQs for Capcom Cup, as that started back in 2017. But if we look at those, there's a lot of stories to be told. First off is ZJZ.
ZJZ should be, yes he is, your last chance qualifier for Capcom Cup.
ZJZ appeared in the LCQ of Capcom Cup 2018. He was an established player from Taiwan who had actually won EVO Japan that year for King of Fighters 14. Street Fighter V GOAT Punk actually sponsored ZJZ to fly out to California for Capcom Cup, as he didn't travel outside of Asia for tournaments many times. To win the LCQ, he had to take out players like Samurai, Diddy Mokov, and John Takeuchi. All of these players had established themselves as Street Fighter V veterans, so ZJZ taking them down as a KOF player probably stung a little bit. The next day, when the full bracket actually started, ZJZ went down to Phenom and Mena RD, placing him at 25th to 32nd with players like Daigo and Big Bird. ZJZ had a solid run, but was overall taken out of the tournament due to what seemed like matchup inexperience. He shook up the LCQ, but pro players were ready for him and sent him home early.
Down to Ed. This is big. Minutes close to Disney. The super hits, and that's gonna be it. Mena over ZJZ.
However, just a year before, there was one player who wasn't sent home early.
Let's get it, and he rockets out of his chair and has the biggest grin on his face, and he cannot wait for the handshake from Ita-san. Will it come? Will there be?
At the Capcom Cup the year before, Nemo had, at the time, the most impressive Street Fighter LCQ run, in my opinion. Nemo's LCQ bracket had him face players like ISTD, Brian F, and Infiltration 3 separate times. Infiltration is infamously one of the hardest players in the world to beat multiple times, and Nemo made it look easy this year. After that performance, it was obvious he was going to go far in the cup. The challenge was definitely set up in front of him, however, because his first match the next day would be against the top seed Punk. To put this challenge into perspective, this year was Punk's year. He was so far ahead in qualifying points that he was almost 1,000 points ahead of Tokido, the number 2 seed. And half of Tokido's points came from just winning Evo, at which Punk got second place. Punk was by far the favorite to win this match, let alone Capcom Cup entirely.
She's done!
And a perfect no
my
less.
goodness!
Nemo with the 3-1.
To send Punk, the favorite, the best player throughout the year, to losers just like that.
And yet, Nemo took him down, convincingly as well, and Punk was sent to losers round 1 of the tournament. Nemo lost to Daigo the next round and was sent to losers to face off against Dogura, Didymokov, and Bonchan, all before even reaching top 8. Nemo won all of these sets, and most of them while up 2 games.
No.
And Nemo, fighting his way all the way back through the last chance qualifiers, takes out Bonchan to move on. Top 8 Capcom Cup 2017.
The next day, top 8 began, and Nemo had to face the likes of Problem X, Itazan, and Moke, all before losers final. Not to mention that he beat Problem with a reverse 3-0. The mental fortitude Nemo displayed on this day 5 years ago is almost unmatched in the world of Street Fighter V, as it seemed like he had limitless potential and was approaching the status of best player on the planet. The mental exhaustion had to kick in at some point though, and his limit seemed to be losers finals against Menard. Mena would go on to be crowned champion, however, so it's possible he was just the better man that day. At the end of it all, Nemo placed 3rd at Capcom Cup, cementing him as one of the best players in the world of Street Fighter V and one of the hardest to crack mentally. And yet, I still wouldn't call this the greatest LCQ run in FGC history.
Boy, not only did he stop that train, he ran it right off the road. It is in pieces by the side of the track right now. Busted by Mena RD.
Speaking of Menard, he's actually the eliminator of every LCQ winner in every Capcom Cup that we've had from 2017. This means he's not only the only player to win 2 Capcom Cups, he's also an LCQ winner's worst nightmare when it comes to top 8 or the regular bracket. I'm not sure how nobody is talking about this, but it seems like more than a coincidence if it keeps happening. With that said, let's get back to talking about the LCQ winners themselves. So if Nemo was able to take 3rd place, and Zhen was able to get 2nd, has there been anyone who's been able to do better than that?
He's backing off, good, interrupt.
Oh, the counter hit again!
And John Ding is going to take it over Granada 2-0 and move into...
Well, in other parts of the FGC, we just had the Tekken legend John Ding place 2nd at the Tekken World Tour Finals a few weeks ago.
To losers, man, this is still an amazing run for John Ding.
Oh my gosh.
But guys, I gotta step over here. I love you, John Ding.
His run was nothing short of impressive either. To secure a qualifying spot, players had to place within the top 4 of the LCQ. John Ding placed 3rd over players like Super Akuma, Shadow 20 Ounce, and Kakoma, all legends. In the main bracket, John Ding made major moves by defeating Yanurang, Chikuden, and the crowd favorite Girlanda, flying all the way to grand finals to meet his bracket demon from earlier, Atif Butt, once again. So John Ding managed to take 2nd place after qualifying in the LCQ, which is definitely impressive, But what makes it extra crazy is that the LCQ and group stage took place on the same day. It was a questionable decision, but what it did test was the mental strength of every player who wanted to qualify for top 8, and John Ding proved himself to be one of the hardest players to shake. And while we're on the topic of mental fortitude, there's one guy who absolutely shattered what I think most of us even considered possible. The stage was the first World Tour Finals of DBFZ, and the format was a bit strange. Basically, to qualify, players had to win one of 7 certain events. The problem was, Kazunoko was so dominant that he pretty much hogged 3 extra spots. This means that at the finals, there'd be 4 separate LCQ tournaments to fill the top 8 bracket. These players had a long day ahead of them, just to say the least. Fenrich had a very strong start, making his way to grand finals pretty securely, but he was taken down by his own teammate and training partner Dogura of the first LCQ. Not a great way to go down, but he still had 3 chances left and he'd already made it to just before the finish line. LCQ number 2. Fenrich loses to Bon and places 3rd, but once again, he still had 2 more shots.
Take advantage of it. Bon was like, yeah, you want to hit me in the legs, don't you? But here comes Grandpa, ready to check you in the jaw.
And then LCQ number 3. He places 5th after losing to Bon again. He's made top 8 against the best players in the world 3 times and just hasn't been able to close it out. He's only got 1 more shot to make it to the main bracket, and this is it.
Yo, I swear Fenrich just hit us with the, man, I forgot I got a 7 frames ad now, man.
Fenrich manages to take out Moke for the last spot in the DBFZ World Tour Finals top 8 the next day, and you can see the relief on his face when he does. Top 8 of 4 different tournaments against the fiercest competition, 2 grand finals, and essentially a buzzer beater win just to secure his place at the table, you can tell he was spent.
Kazunoko tomorrow and complete the circle of 8 players for the World Tour Finals. What a day for Fenrich.
Wow. Dude, Fenrich has done so much today. Showing up in many a grand final to take that final LCQ. I feel like this is going to be a problem maker on the next half of this bracket. Like when we go into tomorrow, I mean, he's still going to be in trouble.
And even still, he wasn't done. The next day, Fenrich had to face the gauntlet of players from hell after losing to Kazunoko. To start, he faced Hook Gang God and defeated him 3-0. Not much to say there, but his next match was against Bon. Bon defeated Fenrich twice just the day before, so this was thought to spell the end for Fenrich. And yet, Fenrich emerged victorious, beating him 3-1 in an insanely close set.
Dragon Rush! I cannot believe
Oh my God!
He did not get it!
Oh my
He's gonna
God!
stay alive! That was a great attempt, but trying to punish with a reflect in the corner, slightly too far from the corner, loses by the sword, and unfortunately...
Look at Bon. If you saw him resting his head, that is true fatigue right there.
The next hurdle was Dogura, the teammate that defeated him just the day before in the first LCQ, and once again, Fenrich took out his opponent 3-1 and secured his place in the top 3 of the World Finals.
Clipped him, and he's got the vanish. That should do it. Fenrich 3-1 over Dogura.
The last hurdle before Grand Finals was Goichi, another teammate of Fenrich and the GOAT of DBFZ. Goichi didn't hit his most dominant stride until the next season in 2019, but he was undeniably top 3 in the world at the time. Fenrich and Goichi trained together pretty much constantly, and in tournaments, Goichi was pretty much undefeated against Fenrich in majors at that point. The question of the day was if Goichi could gatekeep Fenrich one last time to secure his spot in Grand Finals, the spot he'd been fighting for all year.
Oh my God, damn!
He's gonna have 2 bars.
He's gonna extend this too. Yeah, I think this is it.
He's gonna build 3 at the end of
3
this.
bars, oh baby.
The Madman did it. Despite the deficit, Fenrich with the javelin. That's gonna do it. He's moving on to Grand Finals.
The answer was no. In their DBFZ careers, Fenrich only had a 25% win rate against Goichi in big tournaments. At the time, it was probably actually lower than that. And for this day in 2019, that 1 in 4 chance was on Fenrich's side as he defeated his good friend and bracket demon in a reverse 3-0. All that was left now was Grand Finals against Kazunoko. If Fenrich could clutch it out here, he'd be a hero in the eyes of every fighting game player on the planet, not just the DBFZ community, and he truly put up the fight of a century. For context, Kazunoko won 4 out of 7 of the qualifying events this year and made his way to Grand Finals comfortably, only having a close set with Goichi in Winners Finals. He also defeated Fenrich multiple times throughout the season, making this Fenrich's biggest challenge of the weekend. You wouldn't be able to tell how much he went through by looking at how calm and composed he seems, but there's no way his mind wasn't exhausted.
A reset, Fenrich, one set away for the haiku.
We all worry about that haiku, man, yes.
Fighting for that 5-7-5. Fenrich resets the bracket over Kazunoko. Finally, somebody's done it.
Yo, for real, wow. You know what? I didn't doubt the man.
The effort was valiant. Fenrich managed to reset the bracket against Kazunoko with a 3-1, and the hope was swelling. The story was pretty much writing itself at this moment. Unfortunately, he fell short of accomplishing what I would say is impossible. With this, Fenrich's name would have to be included in any conversation about LCQ runs in the FGC.
My goodness, this man, dog, all 4 last chance qualifiers, won the last one, ended up on the run. He went to losers early on, went for the run, and ended up in Grand Finals, resetting on Kazunoko, but falls short.
So, despite all the hype, we haven't seen anyone win the LCQ, then go on to win the World Finals of anything just yet. But we've seen a lot of second place. If that tells us anything, it's that when it comes to fighting games, you really can't count anybody out. I'm really excited to see what Zhen does next since he's made his name on the grand stage. And with competitions growing more and more difficult, I'm sure we're going to see even crazier stories in the future. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.